Imagine this. You've been deep in a project for 3 weeks. The mood boards, all those grids and fonts you've been flipping through for hours. And then you finally take a step back, look at the canvas and think, yes, this is it. And right at that moment, the client pings you.
Can we make it feel more premium? Maybe try a different font, something more interesting, and move the main photo to the right, please.
So you move it, then you move it again, and a few rounds later you staring at the screen and you don't even recognize the work. Did I actually design this, or it just happened to me? After more than 20 years in design and art direction, I've realized one thing. Your most powerful tool isn't some fancy plugin or the latest AI generator. It's one simple question I ask myself at every step. I am Daniel. Here I break down what actually happens in real projects and share my take on how to stay intentional in this industry. And before we dive in, a quick spoiler. This approach is really for a much more difficult fight. Stay until the end and I'll show you how to handle the most brutal boss you'll ever have. A lot of designers, especially when starting out, work like this. You browse Behance, Dribbble or Pinterest and see something beautiful and you think, oh, that's cool, I'll do something like that. So you grab the core approach, swap the colors, tweak the layout, add your own spin, and it looks decent. But here's the trap. When you can't justify your decisions, you are building on a thin air. Your work stays on the level of, I think it's cool, or it's just trendy. But the second someone, a client, an art director, a colleague, comes along and says, well, I don't feel that way. And you got nothing, no real arguments, just a defensive reflex. Or you just cave and start moving blocks around. It's a terrible feeling when you stop being a creator and become just a pair of hands. Someone who just follows orders. To avoid that, I have a simple rule. Throughout the entire process, I'm constantly asking myself one specific question. Why? Let me explain. A lot of people think you just finish the work and then invent a cool story to justify it. Nope, it works the opposite way. The why question isn't about justifying what's already done, it's the process itself. You ask it before and during the decision, not after, and the difference is massive. In the first case, you're looking for an excuse. In the second, you're making a conscious choice. Let's break this down into 3 levels. Level 1, strategy. Of course, I start with the basics, like what's your value proposition, who are your competitors, but then I dig deeper. Why does this product even exist? Why is it valuable to the audience? Or why we are doing this project now? What's the trigger? Is it a drop in sales, a new market, or a shift in the brand? You have to understand the real pain behind the request. The list of deep questions goes even further. To keep it all organized, you need to consolidate them into a brief, a core document you build with your client. Since every project is different, the questions will change based on the goal. I'll show you how to adapt that structure in the upcoming videos. When you get those answers, you have a foundation. You start speaking the client's language and your decisions become way more precise. Level 2, concept. Now that I understand the business, every move I make has to be intentional. If I come up with visual metaphor, why does it fit? Why these colors? Why this specific visual language? If I have too many just because decisions that ignore the context, I'm going to start doubting myself. Let's compare these two websites, a mass market camera store and a premium one. The first one immediately feels visually dense and overloaded with information. The page is packed with discounts, offers, badges, everything is fighting for attention. It's just full of promises of better deals and bigger savings. Why? Because every element is designed to maximize conversion and push you to buy. Now, let's look at the second layout. There's more empty space, fewer distractions, and the focus is entirely on the product. No competing offers, no loud discounts. Why? Because premium brands don't need to shout. When you show too much, it starts to feel like a supermarket. But when products have space, they instantly feel more valuable and special. Once you start looking at design through these questions, you realize there's no such a thing as pretty or ugly. There is only a decision that's justified by a goal or just a random pixel on the screen. Now the third level, and it's all about the details and actual layout. Questions here are: why this grid? Why a horizontal menu? Why these specific margins? Here we lean on theory and best practices. People feel the quality of well-executed layout, even without knowing why. And it's not magic, it's a sequence of justified moves. When your decisions are conscious across all three levels, the conversation shifts from I like, I don't like to here is why this works. This is the only healthy foundation for a dialogue with a client. The biggest shift here is that you are finally standing on equal footing with them. They are the pro in their business, you are the pro in yours, and it's a shared mission. Of course, some clients just won't listen. They're obsessed with a vision they can't even describe. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's their business and their reputation. And if they want to look like a joke in the market, so be it. Think of it like this. Imagine you want a new haircut. You show your barber a photo of someone with a perfect cloud of curls and say, I want this. But your hair is naturally straight and thin. Barber number one just nods and grabs the scissors. No explanation, he just tries to copy the shape. You are happy at first because it looks just like the photo, but the next morning you look in the mirror and it's a flat, messy disaster. The second barber looks at the photo, then at you. He says, yeah, this works because that hair is super thick and holds itself up, but I get the vibe you want. Instead of just doing what you asked, he slows down and explains what suits your hair, what doesn't, and why. Feels a bit annoying at first, but an hour later you look in the mirror and think, yeah, that actually looks great. To be honest, I used to be the first barber. A client would show me a behance shot, I nod and make it look like that. I didn't dig into the why questions. It looked okay and the client was happy, but mentally it was draining. And that brings us to the final boss. This is our inner critic. You know this guy, he is the most toxic art director in the world and he knows exactly where your insecurities are. He's the one whispering, this is a design, it's cargo causing, tomorrow everyone's gonna realize you're a fraud. I know that convincing yourself your work doesn't suck is the hardest part. When you work on pure intuition, the inner critic has a killer response for everything. He just sits there and says, prove it, and you can't. So you start doubting every pixel, endlessly tweaking things to make pretty look perfect, or you just give up and become a mouse operator, because it's safer. But when you start asking why, at every step, things just start to feel different. You still have doubts, sure, that's just part of the process, but now you are working with something solid, not just gut feelings or guesswork. And once it all makes sense to you, that inner critic just fades into the background. In this industry, everyone has an opinion, but very few people have a reason. So next time someone questions your work, whether it's a client or your own inner critic, don't defend your taste. explain your thinking. And that's the moment everything finally starts to click, for you and for your clients. If this approach makes sense to you, I'd love to have you around. Hit subscribe, drop a like or a comment, and see you in the next one.